Okay, we have another election fail montage here. It's very funny. And also, I don't feel bad laughing at these people one bit. They're all, for the most part, I believe in this video, multi-millionaires, but they're crying, pretending that it's the end of the world. It's very funny. Let's take a look.
Terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate.
I mean, do you believe him? Or do you think he's just, are these crocodile tears or are they real? The climate.
For science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies.
Why Social Security? No one has said they're going to cut that.
In Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth, for NATO, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO.
Maybe some of the young men in Ukraine don't want to go into a trench to die. How many people in Ukraine have to die?
For the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Cannot ignore there is...
Yeah, you're just too stupid, Jimmy Kimmel thinks.
Still a lot of race.
This is the worst one. Race hustler. I'll show it in an ad here in a second. I'll show it right now, actually. Look at this. Al Sharpton's acceptance of Kamala Harris campaign's $500K donation, a bridge too far for MSNBC colleagues. So we basically took a bunch of money from Kamala and then gave her a softball interview. And apparently even people at MSNBC that work there are not happy with that. That's obviously a massive conflict of interest. And Al Sharpton is just a race hustler. Just probably should not be in media for sure. I would say that. At least in my opinion, should not be.
And gender bias in this country. And I think for us to ignore that and not try to bring that front and center. So
front and center. See, look at this guy. Race divide. Let's bring it front and center. Race hustler. This is gross stuff.
We can heal that would mean that we would end up in the same place. Kamala Harris is a woman of color in an interracial marriage, running as a woman to be the head of state. That is something a lot of Americans are not ready to deal with.
I'm surprised.
If the Democrats don't stop with this, they're never going to win. The Republicans could win for the next 20 years if the Democrats truly can't shake the woke. Like what Al Sharpton just said there does not apply to basically anybody in the world except for a liberal coastal elite.
At the results, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed-race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy.
This passes for political analysis today. This is gross.
I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Pointing back to 2016, sexism, I'm going to say also racism, and bias had to have played a role.
Now, let me state the obvious. One person is a woman. And this now makes Trump 2 for 2 in beating out a woman to become our president. Let me just ask this simply. It could be tough to answer. Is this country not ready for a woman to become president?
If you just repeat this line, you get a job, apparently, even if you're a former NFL player. I believe that's Nate Burleson. If you just get on there and talk about racism and sexism, put a suit on, you can be an anchor on CBS.
You were a 6'4" white man from Arkansas or from, Florida, and she ran a good middle-of-the-road campaign talking about reaching out. Do you think she would be losing by that much? If she could like chew tobacco and carry a shotgun and talk about football and be a guy's guy, I mean, you tell me.
There are levels of sexism
and then the next day they go and kiss the ring of Donald Trump. And then Rosie O'Donnell even gets triggered. It's not going to watch them anymore.
Racism that clearly a lot of people in this country are willing to tolerate.
Let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country. And anybody who thinks that that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong. I'm not saying that was the main reason that Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump won it.
I think that we've got to be honest.
Oh my goodness, these people are out of their minds. But whatever, if they keep saying this, they're just going to keep losing even more and more of their viewers, elections, etc.
Among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny. And I think that we've got to deal with the reality that he appealed to this whole false macho thing that some black men and some Latino men went for.
How would you explain that to a 14-year-old today? How would you explain this election?
I'll try not to think about my boys, because...
Yes.
Because what, dude? What, like, Trump won? Are you kidding?
But I think you would say that, you know, amazing things have been done through the American political system. People have been given freedoms that they were denied, and glorious opportunities in this country that you can't get anywhere else. And then awful things have happened in the American system. And you have to fight to make sure that you're doing the good part and not the bad part. They can get on basically one of two buses that are going to take them to a destination they think is meaningful. And you get on the bus, and there are a whole bunch of the people on the bus who just want to be seen and have opportunity in American life. And then there are other people on the bus engaged in the same journey who are there absolutely just for themselves, to get power, to give themselves just more riches and more control over things. And
good bus analogy. Didn't make any sense whatsoever.
We have now let misinformation.
The left, by the way, needs like almost a wholesale change in all their pundits. They got to come up with some ideas that aren't Trump derangement syndrome and racism and sexism. You can't even engage with the left. I haven't really seen how many political debates have you seen in the last year that are actually thoughtful and have made you actually think and consider the other side's point of view and maybe even change your mind? Those are essentially extinct right now from the mainstream political sphere.
Become the accepted information. It is washed over us. Elon Musk, he buys Twitter, and then he uses it almost exclusively to be a propaganda machine, and we've accepted it. We've accepted a narrative that despite an actually great economic recovery...
How, though? How is it a propaganda machine? The algorithm is open source. Go prove that it's propaganda then. Go show us in the algorithm where it's turning up conservative and turning down liberal. Like, I don't think X is a perfect platform by any means. I actually get frustrated with it lots of times, but it's not propaganda.
The vibes don't feel good, so we want to reject it and get something else. And the person we are now betting on to change all of it is Donald Trump, a man who did two almost impossible things. He won the American presidency twice, and he drove a casino into the ground. What will the future hold now that America has just decided that we're going to F around and find out?
My takeaway is...
They love bringing up that Trump had bankruptcies in some of his companies. Oh my goodness. A lot of them still succeeded. Have you looked at all the properties he still owns all over the country?
Is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will.
I'm profoundly disturbed.
Rare Joy Behar W there.
I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was America makes a perilous choice. I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And
to be like blunt, this might be a person on television right now. And not just that like low IQ, just the fact does not care at all to think about why Trump won. I mean, she has an unhinged statement every week and does not care about it, just keeps rolling along.
We know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have.
You feel what you feel. Everyone has different emotions. Some people got what they wanted. A lot of people didn't.
Less rights than I have.
And you feel anything that comes up, and then you turn around and you say, let's look at the tapes. Let's see what we did. Let's see how we continue to fight.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of her. I don't think people realize how hard it is to get to where she was. For her to be selected as vice president after what I think she would tell you was a very disappointing presidential race, where I think she kind of lost her footing and was listening too much to consultants, frankly, and it didn't really exude who she was. And then to be vice president and to step into the most difficult situation in the world, where she had to be completely loyal to Joe Biden and respectful of the fact that he had chosen her, but yet maneuver in a situation. I mean, such political skill. It is just inspiring. People who don't.
I agree that was a tough dance for Kamala to do, but Kamala did a terrible job at that. There's no skill involved. She continually did not distance herself from Joe Biden whatsoever. So there's no skill there. She failed at it. Yes, it would have been a little bit difficult to kind of ride that line, but she didn't do it well.
I don't understand what she had to do to get to this moment. And so I'm just very proud of her.
But in the end, you know, if they didn't make their numbers and essentially exceed the numbers that Joe Biden had in the suburbs, and I think we have to be blunt about why. Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not.
Oh, Joy Reid. Joy Reid with the big IQ statements here.
That is what it appears happened in that state, is that if you can't flip enough white women, and we've talked about this on this set numerous times, but it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy.
So many of these people love to divide everybody up on racial lines. And to be honest, it's probably just the only thing they're capable of doing. It's probably actually rooted in insecurity. They know that they don't really want to talk about the numbers or talk about economic data or immigration statistics or anything like that. So they're just going to go right back to the easiest thing in the world to do and just be like, she's a woman of color. He's a white man. White women didn't vote enough.
I mean, a lot of folks are wondering, why would Latinos vote for Donald Trump if that means he might deport abuela? He might deport members of their household. As you know,
that's sort of racist for this guy to be saying it.
Lots of Latino families in this country are of mixed status. And, you know, a lot of folks are asking on the Democratic side, why would they do this to themselves? Do you want to see mass deportations?
So the first thing that we need to do is close the border. More than 10 million people illegally entered the country. They have to be deportation. So there is no other way around. They have to be deportation. They have to be
deportation
we
camps.
Have to respect the laws.
Do you
I'm
want
not
to see
saying deportation camps.
Do you want to see people in camps rounded up and put in camps?
No.
Isn't that what you voted for? Isn't that what you voted for?
Jeez, dude. This is aggressive reporting from, I think this is Jim Acosta. What the heck, dude? Camps? What a scumbag actually of a person to say this like with a straight face. Nobody voted for deportation camps, dude. Oh my goodness. This is the worst. Actually, I've never heard this part yet. This is the worst part of this whole clip. Didn't you vote for that, you stupid Hispanic person? What are you doing?
They are in camps now. More than 300,000 children are missing. So they're in camps now.
Lulu, I mean, you know, one of the things that
nobody voted for a deportation camp, dude. Come on.
I think we need to talk about is whether or not, you know, folks just had the wool pulled over their eyes, and maybe they were.
Oh my God, this is gross to listen to. If everyone's so stupid that they voted for Donald Trump, they didn't realize what they were going to get. They should have voted for the person we like, the Democrats, us.
We're voting on economic issues, but at the end of the day, maybe voting against their own self-interest.
Oh my goodness. No wonder like CNN and MSNBC are failing. Did you see the stats of the amount of border town counties in USA, like in Texas and stuff, that have flipped in a dramatic way from being blue to red following 2016 to 2024? Like humongous swings. And this idiot sitting in Washington or New York or something is going to smugly sit there and be like, you're voting against your interest. What a guy. Anyway, that was brutal. So I'll finish the video here, but pretty funny election meltdown montage. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.